Hey Mustangs, welcome back to Real Talk, where we cover the hottest political topics of the week. I'm your host, Martha Mills. Let's get real. After the conviction of former officer Derek Chauvin, President Joe Biden declares that though it is a giant step forward, it is not enough. The president says we cannot stop here and urges Congress to address policing reforms and pass the George Floyd bill. This national address came after Biden telephoned the family of George Floyd, telling them, quote, "We are all so relieved," end quote. Former Officer Chauvin was convicted of 2 counts of murder and 1 count of manslaughter.
No one should be above the law. And today's verdict sends that message. But it's not enough. So we can't leave this moment or look away thinking our work is done. We have to look at it, we have to look as we did for those 9 minutes and 29 seconds.
In Congress, lawmakers from both parties worked to reach a police reform deal by the anniversary of George Floyd's death in May. The George Floyd Justice and Policing Act of 2020, which passed the House, calls for the banning of racial and religious profiling and establishes a national registry of officer misconduct. The bill also bans chokeholds and no-knock warrants and guts qualified immunity. Democratic Representatives Karen Bass and Cory Booker and GOP Representative Tim Scott have been engaging with both sides to move the bill through the Senate. However, there have been some roadblocks, such as disagreement on qualified immunity. The Texas State House passed the constitutional carry bill on Friday by a vote of 84 to 56. Under House Bill 1927, Texans over the age of 21 with no criminal record no longer need a license or permit to carry a handgun in public. Handguns would still be banned from schools, sporting events, amusement parks, hospitals, and jails. And businesses and property owners could still ban people with guns from entering their establishments. While the background check would remain in place, Texans would no longer be required to undergo training and proficiency tests. Many Democrats and some police chiefs have come out against this bill. House and Senate Democrats introduced new legislation to expand the Supreme Court. The Judiciary Act of 2021 would increase the number of justices on the court from 9 to 13. Democrats claim this expansion would, quote, restore the court's balance, end quote. However, Republicans have slammed the move as court packing. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi says she has no plans to bring the legislation to the floor, but that instead, President Biden's commission studying the Supreme Court is the better course of action. I guess we'll have to wait and see how that plays out. Let's take a break from politics now and get the latest news from the hilltop. Hey Mustangs, I'm Jenny Rudolph, bringing you current issues in the news this Wednesday. The Justice Department is launching an investigation of Minneapolis police. Federal officials were already looking into whether civil rights were violated in the George Floyd case. This new investigation will focus on whether there is a pattern or practice of unconstitutional or unlawful policing, a sweeping probe of the entire police department. This decision was announced after former officer Derek Chauvin was found guilty of murder and manslaughter. He will be sentenced in 8 weeks and he faces up to 40 years in prison. The 3 other ex-officers charged in Floyd's death will be tried together in August. SMU responds to Tuesday's verdict. The university will hold a virtual town hall Thursday at noon to answer the question, after the verdict, how do we move forward together? Registration is required for the virtual town hall, which will be led by SMU faculty members Jeffrey Engel, Karen Thomas, and Pamela Metzger. To register, respond to the email President Turner sent on Tuesday. Another fatal police-involved shooting, this time in Columbus, Ohio. Police released video of the shooting just hours after it happened. The video shows a 16-year-old Makia Bryant charging at 2 people with a knife. She was under the care of the Franklin County Children's Services Agency. The 10-second clip begins with the officer getting out of his car at a house where a 911 call originated. You can see the teen start swinging the knife at another female who falls backward. The officer shouts several times to get down. The teen then charges the other female who is pinned against a car.
That's when the officer fires 4 shots at the girl and she slumps to the ground with the knife next to her. The officer has been taken off patrol as the investigation continues. The federal government is offering nearly $10,000 to cover funeral costs of those who died from COVID-19. In order to qualify, a person must have a valid United States death certificate stating they died from COVID-19. Their funeral must have been held after January 20th of last year. Meanwhile, some North Texas counties are starting to downsize their vaccine stations due to a decrease in demand. Officials say the new sites will accommodate hundreds of people per day instead of the thousands in weeks past. That's current issues in the news this week. I'm Jenny Rudolph.
Thanks, Jenny. SMU students will premiere a film that depicts students' encounters with racism. It's called #BlackAtSMU. A team of Meadows students have been working on the film since the beginning of the semester, despite COVID-19 restrictions. The film is inspired by a series of viral tweets that describe what it is like being a black student at SMU. Student filmmakers plan to hold discussions following the premiere, which will be held on Dallas Hall lawn. They hope the film encourages communication about racism at SMU. Looking ahead, President Biden is set to address a joint session of Congress for the first time on April 28th. The president was formally invited to speak by Speaker of the House, Nancy Pelosi. He is expected to address police reforms and push legislation. Only a limited number of representatives are invited to attend. The address occurs 98 days into Biden's presidency. Well, that's all we have for you, Mustangs. Remember, you can find us on Facebook at facebook.com/SMU Television and follow us on Twitter at SMU-TV. If you have any story ideas, shoot us an email, smutv@smu.edu. Thanks for watching Real Talk this Wednesday. Tune in next week for more political chit-chat and news from the Hilltop. Until then, have a great day, keep it real, and pony up.
SMU-TV and the Division of Journalism want to thank our underwriters, North Park Center in Dallas, Javier's Gourmet Mexicano on Cole Avenue, and Advance ER off West Lovers Lane. We appreciate your support of student media.